every episode, including this one, will be ingested into the podcast universe where you can listen to it as a podcast. So, whether you like to run and listen to our show or whether you watch our show live, we want to really thank you for the love and support you show. Please remember, everyone, we are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who have experienced loss in our lives. We've been impacted by it and we have learned from it. And what we like to do here is share our opinions in an attempt to help you get through whatever it is you are going through. Saying that, if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and to find it. Do not just rely on us. Again, we do this every show, but I guess we should do it again. At least I think we do. We are part of the D.D. Jackson Foundation. It's a nonprofit 501(c). Did I say that right? 501(c). Why are you looking at me like that, Todd? You're scaring me.
C3.
Yeah, it's 501(c)(3), I think it is.
Yeah, you said 3C. Yeah.
I don't know.
Because 3T. You're probably thinking.
There you go. We are what, 8 years in? 9 years. This is our 9th year. We're about to hit our 9th year of doing a lot of activities. First of all, we do Music Hill programs for kids around the U.S. now, but we also do other types of programs. We have a Dinner for a Cause. We have Costume for a Cause. We do a Christmas thing for families in need. We do quite a bit of stuff. So I say all that in case you want to learn more about what D.D. Jackson Foundation is. Please make sure to check us out at ddjf.org. Yes, you can donate there, but what you can also do is just peek around and see if you can maybe share some content to people who may need it. That is the whole purpose for why we are here, is to help anyone out there improve their life with some love and just to try to encourage them that they are not alone with whatever situation they are going through. Todd Jackson, this show is a little bit different today.
Okay.
Because it is just you and me. So it's just the two of us doing a show. We haven't done one of these in a little while.
Yes.
But I always enjoy these shows because whether, I love to make fun of you and tease you a bit.
You love me as a guest.
But I do respect some of the pearls that you sometimes share, whether you pluck them out of the air. I don't know where they come from, but every now and then you will give a nugget. So I like to hear you speak and talk and share your input on these types of shows. But before we even go and dive into our show, we always start the program by asking how the week has been. So with that said, Taj, I would love to know, how was your week?
Trying to think. Look, my kids have been back and forth sick. So that's been always pleasant. I'm learning the parenting aspect of that. We just got over a sickness and it kind of swung back around. And now both Taylor's currently sick right now and missed school today. Tori was sick before, and the youngest one, Tylee, which is the baby. She's now getting better, but she was sick. So yeah,
it's been how's your sleep? Or better yet, how's Tiana?
Sleep is a word that I heard before. Like, it's not a word that I now exists in my thing.
It will forget you. Tiana sleep. And
I was gonna say, she's been a champion, of course. I mean, mothers are always a champion when it comes to that stuff. And as much as I complain, like, she's doing 3 times as much in every way. And so it's just tired. I don't function well without sleep in general. Like, that's kind of like my barometer of happiness aspect of it. Like, the less sleep I have, the more grumpy or grouchy I am. But
yeah,
we're making do with what we got.
It's funny you say that, Touch, because as time has went on, I've found myself in a pretty decent rhythm of sleep where I'm trying to get in bed by 9:30, 10. Sometimes it's 11, sometimes it's even midnight, but either way, I feel like I'm getting at least 6 to 7 hours a day, which, trust me, I remember the days when that wasn't the case, but now that my kids are older, it's easier for me to get that. And my advice to you is just hang in there,
I was gonna say,
day by day. But there is some light at the end of the tunnel
of course,
when it comes to your sleep. That is.
yeah.
So enjoy these days because they go super fast. And yeah, I mean, you're brave. You have 3 young ones under 5, right?
Well, yeah, Taylor's 5, Toria's turning 3, and
Yeah.
Tylee's 8.5 months old.
Whew.
So
Well,
yeah,
hats
nice,
off to you, man.
nice spread, right? Yeah,
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else went on for this week.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a quick week. I don't think anything drastic happened, except me. I talked about my Universal Studios experience, which was fun. Not much is happening, just a regular. So I think we should just dive into um, our show, if that's okay with you, Taj.
Do it.
All right. So, on today's episode of the Power of Love Show, we're going to highlight a valuable resource that came to our attention. It's an exceptional, informative, and insightful article from the platform What's Your Grief? It is written by co founder and licensed certified clinical social worker Litsa Williams. The topic we'll be exploring in this article is often overlooked but incredibly important: the grief care plan. So, to delve deeper into What's Your Grief, you can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at What's Your Grief. That's the handle. And explore their wealth of articles on their website, what'syourgrief.com. The specific article we're discussing today is titled A Grief Care Plan, Your Foundation for Support. And we'll provide a link to it in the show notes for this episode. So now let's explore this article together. In the realm of grief support, we often focus on processing emotions and diving into the depths of despair. But what about the day to day challenges? What about the simple tasks that keep us grounded amidst the chaos of grief? That's where the idea of a grief care plan comes in. It's a practical tool that helps us navigate life after loss by establishing routines,
Mm.
identifying support networks, and incorporating self care practices into our daily lives. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly does a grief care plan entail? Well, it starts with the basics, the non negotiable routines like eating, sleeping, and connecting with loved ones. These may seem trivial, but they form the foundation of our well being during grief. Before I even pose the first question to you, Taj, I think it's really, really important for people to understand and to people to hear that those simple things like eating and the sleeping and connecting with loved ones, they are crucial parts and elements to your healing from grief, on navigating through your grief. So don't take those things lightly. Please, please, please. I know it's hard, especially, everyone's grieving, and how they experience it is different, but please make sure you value eating, sleeping, and connecting with loved ones and other simple things. So, Taj, and to the audience, you guys can respond in the comment section. This is an interactive show where, for those watching live, we will sometimes highlight your comments. But I'm going to pose the question to you, Taj. Have you ever heard of, or have you ever created a grief care plan before?
The answer is no.
all, all that drum roll for no, huh?
Yeah, the answer no.
You never heard of a grief care plan, huh?
It's a created one. No, I've heard of. I
Okay.
mean, but yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is stuff that I wish we would have had back then in that way. But no.
Yeah. So, a grief care plan includes a HALT check-in, HALT, HALT, where we can assess whether we're hungry, that's the H,
Mm.
angry, that's the A,
Mm.
lonely, that's the L, or tired, that's the T.
Ooh.
These emotional and physical states can greatly impact our ability to cope with grief. So it's important to address them head on.
Yes.
I've never heard the acronym HALT. I think
Mm.
it's a great one. I love words. I love tricks like this. I love quotes. But I think it's really important that we understand that we can't be hungry. We have to make sure we're fed. We have to do our best to not be angry. We have to make sure we're not lonely. That's in our actual theme of the show. And then
Mhm.
we also have to make sure we're not tired. We have to make sure we're getting our rest. If we don't take care of those four things, those very important things, we cannot get through grief to the best of our abilities. So remember that HALT, HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. If you can take care of those four things, you're already, in my opinion, well on your way to dealing or to being able to deal with grief. Anything you want to add, Mr. Jackson?
No, I like those so far. In that way, I'm kind of curious to hear more, but yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I'll sign off on that so far.
All right. So, number two, how do you currently navigate the day-to-day challenges of grief in your own life? I'm going to ask you, Taj, to answer that. I know, or you could answer it as, how have you in the past navigated day-to-day challenges of grief when it comes to your life? And I assume back when we were younger with earlier grief, you may not have had the tools or intelligence. Whether you have the intelligence now is still
Yeah, I didn't
debatable.
like how you select that word. It got my attention. I know.
But you
Many
may
years
not
of use for that.
you may not have the experience or wisdom. How about that?
Like,
To have understood all the important aspects to grieving properly. So my question is, whether it's in current grief or in recent grief, is there anything you've learned versus prior grief that you feel was important that helped you get through it in a better, healthier way?
I think honestly, the companionship of something or
Yeah.
someone or just a community is, so that lonely, the L in the whole isn't very important in that way, because we're under the understanding, or under the assumption that, like, oh, someone's grieving, they want to be alone in that way, and maybe they think they want to be alone, but really, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist. We said that in the thing, but I feel like sometimes when people are alone, that's when the worst of thoughts can happen in
Yeah.
that way, or they can beat themselves up or whatever it is in that way. So just, even if they don't want to converse or want to talk, just you being there for someone, and in that way where it's like you give them that option of, hey, I'm there, because there is that danger of feeling like isolated, where no one cares or no one understands what I'm going through
Yeah.
aspect of it. And so we luckily had us, we were all when mom passed, I had two brothers that were experiencing exactly what I was experiencing. So I never felt alone in that
Mm.
grief. And even then it felt lonely, and that
Yeah. Well said. No, it's really important to say all that you said. So I appreciate it, Taj. I think out of all of them, that's sometimes the hardest one. Out of the hunger, the anger, and the loneliness, and the tired, I would say loneliness is the one that's most challenging, because we think we want to be lonely, and we think it's good to be lonely, and let me just process it. And then on the outside, a lot of people, when you go through grief, people say, you should get something to eat. There's reminders, and then when you're tired, you may yawn, you may fall asleep.
yeah, you might.
But when it comes to loneliness, oftentimes we sadly and incorrectly feel that being alone is the answer, and you're going to process it in a better way. I can't say for a fact that's everyone needs to have people around them all the time, but there's something valuable in not feeling alone in your grief. And I appreciate you saying that we at least had each other, that we knew we're going through a very, the same thing, that internally we never felt true, like it was us against the world. Or it was one of us against the world. We always felt like at the very least we had each other, and that's a very valuable thing. So I share all that because if a sister, brother, cousin, or a friend is going through something, just remember that the loneliness is an important aspect to make sure that person's there. And if they're saying they need them time, maybe just popping by, shooting text messages, just reminding them that they're on your thoughts is a very powerful thing.
Yeah, and because I know that that's what I appreciated in that way when people would do that aspect of it. But also, there's people with the personality that they don't want to burden someone, like they're feeling bad, and they don't want to burden. Like if you're going through grief and you're feeling really crappy, and you don't want to burden someone else with that, so you feel like you kind of isolate yourself. Some people have that personality, so just be aware of that as well.
Well said. Okay. There's another. Let's pull up Sequoia's comment. Sequoia says, "When my dad died, I wanted to be alone because his family and friends was around nonstop. But when my sister died, I had to be alone because I had COVID. But I at least wanted family to call and check on me. So yeah, I think we all go through different things.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. First of all, sorry for your losses, Sequoia.
Yes.
That's the first thing. And I, again, I'm not you, so I can't speak for you. But I think just that your family being around nonstop, whether we realize or not, could have played some type of role in healing, whether we subconscious or not. And then, like you said, the phone calls, or at least your desire to have family to call and check on you. I appreciate you saying that and
Yeah.
showing that vulnerability, because someone may be going through a similar situation and not know if they should reach out for help or want, so it just helps when people like you share what your experiences were. um and Carol says, I didn't have the family support when my mom died. My family hurt me. uh,
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry for that, Carol. And sometimes we don't realize it. Again, this is something I've said several times, and I'm sure Taj has said it. But I just wish our society did a better job of talking about this. For some reason, for a lot of us, especially us older generation, my age and higher, there's this mentality or idea that you just stay quiet or you suck it up or you don't, you let them just deal with it.
Mhm.
Where in today's world, it's way more talked about and discussed because of things like the Power of Love show. That I hope those days of not supporting anyone or having to go through grief alone are behind us, because I don't think it's the best way to do it. Um,
And
anything? Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead, Tom.
I would say, I'm sorry about that, Carol, but you know, in general, I think that's also where, for me, that's where leaning on friends or a community helps a lot too in that way, because you families can disappoint you in certain things, and if you have something else, another structure of, I consider my closest friends family in that way. They're not blood, but I treat them like blood in that way. And so, it's having that alternate source community helps as well.
Clarice says, someone just telling you they are thinking about you helps. Very, very true. Marlene says, I want to thank everyone who supported me during these last days with the loss of my grandma. It really helps feeling all that love. It does. Nothing will ever fill the hole you may feel, Marlene. Um, but I think humanity and friends and people can give you some type of strength, and it sounds like that's what's happening. So I'm happy to hear you're getting that. Um, yeah. Okay. So Taj, let's go on to the next question, and that question is: this is for you again, Taj, and for the community, if you want to answer. What non-negotiable routines do you find most helpful in maintaining your well-being during grief?
One of the things I would say, and this is just me looking back now, if I could tell my younger self, let me say that aspect of it. So it wasn't something that I was smart enough to know back then, because we didn't have the same resources that we have now in
Yeah.
that way. I would, I think it's okay to laugh, okay to smile during that time period. There's that stigma that you're supposed to be sad. And I really do think that comedy and laughter is is the opposite of crying and
Mm,
sadness, and if you can laugh during grief, that's a win in that way. So put on something silly, or watch a silly comedy or something, or your go-to, whatever it is. But um I always find my nostalgia for me has always been the key of everything, because it brings me back to the time when I was happiest or whatever. It brings good memories in that way. But that's a double-edged sword, because to some people that
mhm.
person's no longer part of that anymore, and then they
Yeah.
might trigger memories. But for me, I always looked at the good things in that aspect. I've always been a glass half full anyway person. So I can look at nostalgia, I can look at stuff with my mom or our mom, and still look at it as a positive, as opposed to, man, I miss her. It's more of like, wow, we were so lucky to have her.
See, and I think I'm in the opposite side where it's hard. It would be hard for me to continuously revisit through nostalgia. Um, but it just shows you people can be different and take
Oh
things
yeah.
different way. For me, my answer to this would be to and this I assume may not be your answers, but it's to get outside and get some sunlight and and move around. I think
Good.
you know
That's good.
why
That's it.
why is it?
No, it's a good advice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I would say. That would be my kind of non-negotiables. All those things I just mentioned can be done in 5, 10 minutes. Just getting outside, getting some sunlight, walking, connecting with nature. I really think those are some pretty non-negotiable routines that will help anyone, maintain some well-being during a difficult time. I wanna let's see if we have any couple of comments that we can uh okay, my life, my hurdles, and my survival. And happy birthday, Bommy. I know it's your birthday just a couple days ago. Bommy says, doing my hobbies to keep me busy. For example, painting literally anything, even if it's basic.
Love that.
That's great. Clarice, kind of like me, Clarice. Clarice says, for me, it was reading. Escaping in a book is like taking a vacation from your life. You don't think about what's going on. Yeah. See it, and that it's funny, Taji, because that's how I am. Like, I don't want to. I mean, in the immediacy,
Yeah.
in the early times, it just could send me in a difficult place. So for me, I'm like Clarice. I'd want some type of escape.
Escapism.
Yeah, and Sarah says a non-negotiable for me, steering clear of those who either minimize my grief or invalidate me with
That's
words and
great.
action. This
Great
is
point.
great. This
Um,
is great. This is really, really important. Go ahead, Taj. What were you gonna say?
no, I was going to say, and that's a thing. I hope people are getting the education to know, you know, or it's being spread about the words not to use in that way. Like, as we have said in the past, like, oh, they're in a better place now, or they're not suffering anymore. All those words are like, or that those kind of things in that way. I hope that the general public is getting better at that aspect of it, and
Mm,
what not to say. Or
mm.
it's been, another one is, it's been x amount of time, you should be over it, or you need to get out there now again, and all that stuff. It can be very hurtful to someone that's grieving, because, as we've always said, everyone grieves differently and through their own process in that way.
Next question, Taj, is what are some activities or practices that you find bring you joy and provide a mental break from grief?
I kind of
I
answered that, but
yeah,
yeah, I think anything nostalgic in that way for me is, brings me joy, makes me smile, is always good, in that way. Now it's my kids and my wife and all that stuff, my family. But
yeah,
before I didn't have that aspect of it, so it
yeah.
was really the nostalgia aspect of it, and provide a mental break from grief. Yeah, I mean, that would be what it did.
I think we can move on because I think we discussed,
Well,
Clarice
a
said
lot of people are
reading.
saying music too, because music would be,
Mm,
that I will say that that's always been a secret weapon too, is listening to music. 'Cause you can take music anywhere in that
good
way,
point.
and you can identify with the song, or or two. So yeah.
Very good point, Taj. Um, yeah, you're right. April said walking is very helpful. Music for me as well as meditation and yoga. So great. Great, great, great. Okay. Um, let's see. Uh, we'll go to here. Can you share a supportive resource or person in your life that has been instrumental in your grief journey? And this for again, not just for Taj, but for everyone out there. Is there a resource or person in your life that has been big for you on dealing with a significant grief?
Um, I think I've said this many times. For me, that was my friend Heather, who I wasn't even really friends with at school at the time. But when mom passed, it was something that she could relate to.
Mm,
And we became very close because of that reason, in that way, because I could feel like she could identify with what I was going through. And that's also where I come up with, like, sometimes your closest friends could be too close in that way, or your family could be too close, where you don't want to talk to someone, and it might be easier to talk to someone that you're not as close with. And through that we became close, and I cherish her friendship. But yeah, um, I would say she was very instrumental in my grief, because I didn't feel alone, and I felt like it was someone I could talk to honestly. And and it just, yeah, it was super helpful in that way.
I love that, Taj, because my what I love about it is that it wasn't like a close friend. Because
Yeah,
I think so, we oftentimes think that that person has to be, the closest person, your confidant, but it can be someone else. It can be someone that you don't know as well. It can be
yeah,
someone online if
yeah. It was
you
like a
connect
friend
with
of
them.
a friend, aspect of it. But it was just, we became really close because of that, which is great.
It's powerful, but I think the thing is, and for me, what I was gonna say, it wasn't a person, it was my dog.
Yes.
My dog played a role. Obviously, maybe they did know. I do feel sometimes dogs feel emotions and know when they're needed to show love. But my dog Yabo played a really big role in helping me get through that incredibly tough situation. I think we've also talked about how Uncle Michael was huge for us. Outside of our father and my grandmother.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the hard thing, with Pops, was that Pops was grieving as well,
mhm.
a lot of things in that way. Obviously, you know, um, he knew mom since high school in that way. So he was grieving in his own different way, and they had been divorced. So there was a lot he was going through. So I know you don't either, but I never blamed Pops for not, being
Yeah.
as much there, because he was going through it with his own
And,
grieving process.
and I'm happy you say that, and that goes for all the family,
Yeah.
and not just Jackson family. My mom's side of the family were going.
Yeah.
They lost a sister, they lost an aunt, they
Oh,
lost.
100%.
So
And
they have a grieving process and experience too. So I
completely
think that
different, and
it,
and as powerful, if not more, because that was someone that they knew longer, in that way.
sure,
you
and
know
built incredible lifelong memories with.
yeah.
So 100% Taj. Let me see. Unless you've been looking, Taj, I always forget to go. Um, this is a
Were
cool
you looking at
comment.
comments and stuff?
Yeah, I was looking at some.
I think
There's some
we're
cool.
going to save one comment to the end, but yeah.
Well, some of you have mentioned DDJF, which is really cool. Marlene says, "You guys and all the DDJF community. I didn't find that anywhere else." And that's been the goal of the Power of Love show. Is one of the goals is to obviously talk about it, make grief not so taboo, not so hush hush, and to provide resources for people who may be going through things. But another one is to create a family, create a community where we can help each other out and pick each other up. Um, you know, uh, we all go through losses at some points in our lives, and we never know for sure when that can happen. But the one thing I can say, it's bound to happen to all of us, not just once either, maybe many times. So, um, for us to have this community, I think is a really true blessing, and something that and I know Taj as well is really really proud of. So, thank you all for the role you
Yeah,
play.
you guys have been amazing, and keeping it going. It's a community that I wish was around when mom passed. to be honest, and that would have been super helpful.
Absolutely. There's and here I'll just highlight this one from Tori. Tori says 9 years ago, I was going through hell, and the DDJF show helped me tremendously. I cannot thank you enough, guys. I love it. Yeah, and thank you, Toria, for all you do for
Yeah.
everyone. You're always a giving person, so thank you. Okay, let's go on. Wait, first I gotta mention Clarice's comments because she's also with the dogs. Yes, I couldn't have gotten through anything without my dogs. I'm telling you guys, don't
Oh,
sleep on the roll.
I was going to say something about that,
Yeah.
and it's so true because you mentioned Yabo, and Rascal was my dog in that way. There's Yabo was TJ's and Rascal was mine, but I leaned heavily on Rascal as well. But that was also one of the things when Rascal died was so heavy on me because that was my connection to mom. Basically, like mom got me Rascal for my birthday and all that stuff. So it was another cycle of grief that happened afterwards in that way. But dogs, you lean on them for a lot, or cats in that way. I'm just a person personally, no, nothing against cats and all that stuff, but Rascal was like my rock, as you said, with Yabo we were across. People don't know, but our rooms were across from each other, so I know how much you leaned on Yabo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and just like, so me and TJ, our rooms were right across from each other. So he knows what I loved about Rascal. And someone just asked, was my dog named after Little Rascal? Yeah, the Little Rascals, and yes, it was.
Yeah. Rascal was a cool little dog, Tosh.
Yeah.
Rascal was a cool little dog.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go on to here. Okay. How do you feel, Taj, and viewers out there, live viewers, I should say, how do you feel about the idea of taking control of your healing journey through the creation of a grief plan? What's your thoughts on that?
I say, honestly, whatever is needed in that way. It seems like such an brilliant thing to do. In that, I think anything that gives you a step-by-step, or like, here's what you should do, or here's what you're going to need to do, and whether it's for the future or the present, is something I'm always, especially if it's simple like this one looks like. This is my first time kind of seeing it, because I try not to see things. I try to see it like the audience sees it. So
yeah,
I'm looking at it, and it looks like it's very simple to do. So I'm all for this, because I thought it was going to be a little harder.
Yeah. And for those who may be listening right now, on the screen is a simple grief care plan by Litsa Williams, again, from What's Your Grief. It's going to be in the show notes. So if you want to download and print, if you're going through grief, I think it's just an important thing to write out and to discuss and to talk and to to remind yourself. It's really, because sometimes when you go through grief, you don't know when you're going to need a certain thing or a certain book or a certain person or a certain anything. And if we could write it all out, sometimes it could be that little nudge or little reminder to help you get back onto a healthier plan or a healthier journey. So I would suggest anyone who's going through a grief right now to print this out and write this out. And then when you're feeling like you're in a lull or in a difficult situation, let this serve as a reminder to help you get through that. And I don't necessarily want to say to help you, ignore it or help you, finalize it, but we have to know we have to know what our healthy buttons are to get us through grief. Because there is a healthy and a non-healthy way to do it. And I truly believe if we could do it the healthy way, we'll get back to living a life that we deserve to live. We'll continue on, Taj, if that's okay. What steps do you think you could take to create your own grief care plan? Are there any specific challenges you anticipate facing? Do you have an answer? I kind of have something, but I want to hear from you.
You start, because I don't really have.
Yeah. That's why I said that, because I knew.
You weren't gonna let this slide.
No, but I think, like the grief plan we just highlighted, it shows some certain things you can do. But grief is one of those things that it's not so concrete. It's not rigid. It could be, I don't know if I had seen, I'm going to pull it back up, but I don't think I saw favorite music. I saw favorite distractions, favorite mood boosters, places I feel calm. I love that one. People to reach out to in my daily non-negotiables. I think all five of those are really brilliant. But another one I'd maybe mark is favorite activities. Mood boosters can fit in there, but whether it's painting, drawing, reading, I guess those could fit into favorite distractions and favorite mood boosters. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe favorite songs. I don't know. This one's pretty solid. Favorite places I feel calm.
Mhm,
Whether that's a movie theater, or it could be at the top of a mountain, it could be at the beach, it
mhm.
could be any of those things. And I think that, you know what? Let me say it this way. Let me take this time to make this point. There is no right or wrong answer. Whatever it is for you, that's the right answer. So I I truly feel like a movie theater is a sanctuary for me. Yeah, I really like. I love it, and oftentimes I daydream and don't even pay attention to the movie. But there's something that's calming to me. As Clarice was saying with reading, maybe it's just escape aspect. So whatever it is for you, do do what's right for you. Anything you want to add, Taj, before we go on to the last question?
Are there any specific challenges you anticipate facing? I I didn't.
Uh, what was the question? What do you mean?
Are the second part of it? Are there any specific challenges you anticipate facing by creating?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, if you create your own, I personally, I mean, I think you can add to it. But I love what Litsa did with the one that is in the show notes. I think
I
that
would
hits
I
all the
would just
major ones.
add that I would do it now than
Mm,
when you're grieving in that way, because when you're grieving you might not be in the headspace that you would be now in that. So I kind of like this as something almost as a preemptive thing, as opposed to I'm grieving and I need to do this for someone else to understand. I would do it now in that way.
well said. Well said. Clary says you need a plan to get through holiday, birthdays, and special dates. That's a good point too.
Very
So,
great
so
point.
that could be something that you would add, something that helps you get through special dates, like an extra kind of boost. And then Sequoia says my challenges are consistency and lack of motivation. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And it's so hard because that's something I think you have to figure out internally, because oftentimes advice regarding motivation or consistency, if it comes from outside, oftentimes we may not understand what you are going through in life, not just mentally, but what you have, whether it's jobs or commitments. We don't know. So it's my advice for anyone who's struggling with consistency or lack of motivation. You have to have a serious talk with yourself and motivate yourself internally to figure out how to get through any situation, whether that's stopping certain commitments, whether that's being a bit more selfish with your time. I think that's something that has to come from inside and internally, my opinion. um,
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. In that, I'm going to use a real world example in that way. If I look at it and I look at the show, and we've done this consistently, for over 300 episodes in that way. If you would have asked me on episode one, would I be here 300 episodes later? I'd said, there's no way. I am someone that, as the lack of motivation and consistency aspect of it. But there's something about this show and something about mom's memory and doing something in mom's name and helping others that is so rewarding and helpful and therapeutic for myself and
yeah,
you guys and when I say you guys, I mean my brothers, but also the community. And you have to find that spark in there. I didn't know it was going to be this show, and here we are on a Wednesday, and I'm here, and I've always been here because I love the show. I'm proud of the show. I'm proud of our organization, and I'm proud of our community. and we're all here. And I just appreciate everyone for that reason. So that's consistency and a commitment in that way, because I'm seeing the same people that come back. So
Yeah. There's two challenges that I want to highlight, and maybe you can give some thought on this. Tori says, my challenge is definitely asking for help. I need to learn to do that. I think this is a very big one. A lot of people do struggle with this, but I think my first instinct is that you got to understand, Toria, and to anyone who is can relate to this. There are so many people that want to help. They just don't know how to or what's going on in your life, and um, whether it's you don't want to burden other people, or whether it's you just don't want to it's a humility thing, an ego thing. Whatever it is, that should all be secondary or tertiary. There's a word for you, Taj, to the importance of asking for help. There's nothing weak about asking for help. It's actually a strong thing to do. I think oftentimes our society has us thinking that it's a weak thing, but if you could say, I need help with something, that's a very powerful lesson. Again, something that we as older never really got. I think it's something that's now being discussed, that showing your vulnerability or explaining that you don't know something is a powerful thing. So my advice to you before I turn it over to Taj Toria is to ask. You gotta People aren't mind readers. The life moves so fast that people can't often know what you are going through. So if they don't know, they're not going to be able to help you the way people would want to help you. So for you and for anyone who may be going through a similar thing, because I can relate to this, I don't like asking for help either. We have to be able to ask at least someone, or mention it to someone. Anything you want to add, Tosh?
yeah, you're ready for the wisdom. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding about the wisdom. Like that. But 100%. That was one of the biggest hurdles that I had to get through. I'm a Leo, so Leos have pride, and Leos, they think everything they could do on their own, and in that way. But the hardest thing for me was to learn to ask when I needed help.
Yeah.
Um, in that way. Now, once I did, and you do have to be careful of who you ask. You got to make sure that the person or persons that you ask generally want to help you in that way. And if they don't, if it's the wrong person you ask, go to the next person. And that there is someone that wants to help you. Don't get discouraged, because there are people that are just selfish in this world.
It's true.
And they're not going to help you. But don't get discouraged. Don't be like, I'm not going to ask someone ever again. You find the right person, and it will free you up so well. And so I've gotten to the point where I used to be scared to ask, and now I don't abuse it, but I will ask if I need help now. There's nothing about it in that way.
It's great. And then the other one, the challenge that I want to highlight was Carrie's, who says, my challenge is that sometimes my emotions become overwhelming.
Yeah.
I don't feel I've experienced that myself, Carrie, but whenever there's been a situation where I feel I'm getting emotional, whether I take this advice or not, what I'm trying to say is I'm not successful at taking this advice myself, but I think the best thing to do is to just slow down and take deep breaths. And whether that's meditate, yoga, just slow everything down and breathe. I think that would be one of the best things you can do to calm yourselves and let yourselves get a handle of your emotions. Obviously, some situations emotions are going to win. We're human. We live in societies where it's challenging. We don't live by ourselves. We live with others who can upset us and disappoint us. So I don't want you to think that something's wrong with you by any means. But the only thing I would say is try to slow it down and remember, with breath and taking your time and sometimes even reacting. I know this is a different thing, but sleeping on something or letting time pass can help you understand and how to deal with emotions.
Interesting. Yeah.
Anything, Todd, you want to add, or you good?
Just real quick, I would say, yeah, just think of like the teapot scenario where it's like on a stove, and I think the more that your emotions happen, the more that it can boil over. I'm someone that can be my worst enemy when it comes to emotions, so that's why I need those distractions. That's why I need to go watch a movie that's nostalgic or something, because if I'm just left to my own devices, it's like it's just going to get bit. The emotions are going to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and in that way. So I do need that breakup. It's like taking the teapot off the stove in that
Yeah.
way, letting it cool down. So whatever you can find in that way, whether it's a movie, a book, a song or two, or any kind of distraction where you're not in your own sorrow aspect of it, because I've been there in that way. That helps so much.
Sarah says DBT. I'm guessing that's deep breathing techniques. Just a guess. I'm not. I
That's
really
a
don't know.
good guess. Yeah.
Good guess, right?
Yeah.
DBT skills helped when I struggle with that too, Carrie. Breathing exercises are a big part of that.
Nice.
Now, after reading that whole sentence, are you still thinking it's deep breathing techniques?
Look, because she says breathing exercises right there, so I probably would. Yeah.
Breathing exercises are a
Oh,
big part of that.
she said.
There you go. See, I knew it wasn't right. After
Okay.
seeing the way she said breathing exercises are a big part of that made me think maybe that wasn't the whole thing. So Sarah's clarified it for us by dialectical behavioral therapy. Great guys. I was about to say it.
You weren't even close, and I
Well,
don't
you
even.
agree. You.
I know that's
You.
what I said. I don't even know how I followed you on that one.
Yeah, you sure
Sounded
did,
good.
man.
See?
It's all good.
Influence.
Hey, we said it from the top. We're not doctors. We're not licensed. We're just sharing our opinions in an attempt to help you get through whatever it is you're going through. Okay. Yeah, and Carrie, like that. Distractions do help sometimes too.
All right.
Very cool. Okay, Taj.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Let me.
Unplug both
Okay,
of them,
sorry. This
then
is gonna.
plug the router back in. Wait 30
And
seconds.
it was funny. It's so loud because I play my music loud.
Plug in.
Oh,
All
so
right.
that's
Okay.
that's
That's why it
Alexa.
was so loud. It's Alexa. Say that, Taj. You almost triggered it again. Okay. Final question. We'll go with this one as the final question. In what way do you think creating a grief plan can positively impact your overall well-being and healing process? We've kind of touched on this, but I think it's important to end with this as well. I just think I think oftentimes when we go through grief situations, it comes out of left field. We don't know, we can't plan for a lot of our grief journeys, at least the initial part of it. So, as Taj suggested, maybe filling out a grief plan in advance can help you so- can help you get through it in a healthier, safer way. It can help you establish habits that can help you get through it in a better way. So, I think I told you guys from the beginning. Sometimes my brother can say some pretty intelligent things. Not all the time, but every now and then, about once a month, he says it. And today's the day. I think writing out a grief plan and filling one out in advance is a very intelligent thing to do. That way, when grief does hit us, because like I said, I feel it's going to hit all of us at some point in our lives. We can be prepared. We can know what we can have a cheat sheet and maybe even share it with someone. Let your significant other, your sibling, your adult child, or someone, your parent, let them see your grief plan, uh, because then they will have a kind of an insight
Yeah.
on what you need in your with what you're going through. So I think there's many different ways creating a grief care plan can positively impact your health and well-being.
Yes.
Anything you want to add to that, or I think that's the best way to end the show, to be honest.
No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, so just to recap again, What's Your Grief? This is the Instagram handle at What's Your Grief. You can also go online, what'syourgrief.com. That's the internet website. And then I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to highlight as an overlay the article. What's your grief? A grief care plan, your foundation for support. It was written by Litsa Williams. So check it out. All the information is going to be in the show notes. But again, I would like to challenge anyone out there to download it and fill it out. Take Taj's advice and do it today, so that when grief does hit you, it's going to hit us, we are as prepared as possible, and we can get through it and navigate it in the healthiest way possible.
Yeah.
Couple more comments I want to highlight, then we will truly sign off. There's just some solid ones that we need to touch on. Carol, this isn't one of the solid ones, but Carol says, TJ and Taj, your backgrounds look the same.
I noticed when I saw that comment.
You know what, Carol?
Like we
Listen,
pan over and we'd be like
in the same room, except the couch colors. But you know what? I didn't realize it until you said it, Carol. So
I didn't need to. Yeah.
Now it's like, but this is just so comfortable doing the show from here.
No, hey, we're brothers. We're supposed to be kind of similar.
All right, but
look at the young one always wanting to be different. Go
I
ahead.
knew it was coming. That's what I wanted to try to avoid. But I didn't see the similarities until you really mentioned it. So I don't know. Isabel wants to add, your friends' love and support is crucial for someone else. Might have the experience and the wisdom. Both are as important. Very, very true. And then one thing we're going to end with is Toria's comment. And this is something we've been, Taj and I have both been thinking about, and that's Lena. Toria says, let's send love and support to Lena, who lost her brother. It's so challenging to be present because she is far away, but she is always on my mind. I wish I could do better for her, as we all do.
Yeah, she's been
Toria
amazing in that way, and an amazing part of this community. So we need to keep sending her our love and support.
Lena, we love you. We are here for you. We are here in any way you need. Please know we are all thinking about you, and reach out if you need any of us.
Yep.
All right, Taj, I think that should wrap up our show. It was fun. As always, it's always a solid show when it's just you and me. I can rib you a bit more. I don't feel as guilty. It takes me back to our youth. But yeah, I you know what? And one more thing I do want to say is, for those who maybe knew or didn't know, we do have a Facebook group. It's a fantastic group. It's a safe place where you can connect with people and talk about what you may be going through, or be the support system for someone. So if you do use Facebook, please consider joining the Dee Dee Jackson Foundation official Facebook group. We will add that link into the show notes as well, but you can also just go on Facebook and type in Dee Dee Jackson Foundation Facebook group, and you will see the Dee Dee Jackson Foundation official Facebook group. All right, that is it. We love you all. We will see you next Wednesday, April 17th. Until then, please have a safe and wonderful rest of your week, and adios, everyone. Bye.